every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name.
take a minute and give a praise offering. Let's just give a shout. Come on. He's a firm foundation. He's good. He's amazing. He's the King of all kings. He's above everything, you guys. Jesus. There is power just in the name of Jesus. And I got to tell you, there are days and weeks when that's the only prayer I have. Anybody? There's sometimes I don't have any prayers, but I know if I can open my mouth and I can say Jesus, Jesus, there is power and he is right there with me. Right there with me. And I don't know about you guys, but I had a rough week and it's not like anything happened. It's just like I felt like I kept banging up against walls, and nothing was breaking free. And yet, here we're singing this song today, that he's our firm foundation. And even though I hit a whole bunch of walls, and I walked in here today saying, Lord, I'm empty. I got nothing but you. You're going to have to fill me up. You know what? He is my firm foundation. I will not be shaken, right? And so maybe you're having the same kind of week. Maybe you're bumping up against walls and nothing's breaking free and you don't understand what's happening. I just invite you forward to just come meet with God today. And maybe all you need to
deliverance from my enemies till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer afraid.
Good morning, West Des Moines Open Bible. Woo! Good morning on live. Hey, just wanted to go through a couple announcements, pretty short today. But first and foremost, please remember that we love you and you belong before you believe. So please keep that in mind. You are loved here. We are so happy to have you. Little couple things. We do have, if this is your first time here, underneath your seats there are some connection cards. So please feel free to get those filled out, return those to the back, and we'll have a little gift for you. If you're watching online, same thing. You can check out the Connect QR code and get on there. Let's see, table groups. Today, this afternoon, from 1:30 to 3:30, the Harbor Ministry Women's Table Group is going to be doing some deep cleaning of the parsonage as we prepare for Ben and Lola to come. So please come and join us if you are able. Many hands make light work, and we would love any assistance. You do not have to stay for the entire time. Whatever time you can be there is going to be helpful. So feel free to come back at 1:30 and join us. Hang on, add my notes. There were so few. Excited to have them with us. Awesome. Thank you. And then just to kind of keep up, next week, Jacob Groover will be presenting the word. And so he will be here as well. The following week will be our lovely Dee Dee on the 21st. And then Ben and Lola will arrive on the 28th. They are moving in on August 17th to begin that process. So you'll probably see some of them about and around. So please swing by and say hey to them. And let's welcome them well, okay? All right, thank you.
First of all, I want to say, whoa, okay, I'll hold it back a little bit. God does provide. How about our new band? A few weeks ago, we were scared we didn't have a band. God, we have a band now. Way to go. And Ida, as always, thanks for the announcements. Welcome, West Des Moines Open Bible and Sober Soldierz family. This is Sunday Sober Soldierz Takeover. It's time up here, but I just want to tell you guys that the terms we live by are God and recovery must come first, and recovery is not a one-size-fits-all. With Sober Soldierz, as many of you know, my name is TJ Vasquez. I'm in recovery if you don't know. With West Des Moines Open Bible, it was Andrew Bates and Victoria who opened the doors for us nearly 2 years ago and gave us the opportunity to start a recovery program here in my home church. I truly believe that I'm a product of prayer. You will hear that from everybody that probably comes up here today. And I know I got a huge prayers from these two ladies back there. Stand up, Grams and Mom. I stand up here in front of you guys because of prayers answered for them over the past 25 years, in and out of addiction, in and out of prisons, in and out of these church doors, coming into this church sometimes with Grams just to know that or make her know that I'm still alive. But I truly believe that I'm a product of prayer, and I'm grateful to be here. With the opportunity, I'm here to tell you just a little bit about Sober Soldierz. West Des Moines Open Bible gave us the opportunity, and as my wife likes to say, Sober Soldierz has the option to speak Jesus. We get to go into recovery centers and speak Jesus, and to the recovery world that most needs to hear about Jesus. And I think that flows back into West Des Moines Open Bible as a congregation. Ooh, I'm stuttering a little bit. I need to slow down. Let me go back. I haven't said yet though, Carrie. There it is. So, with what we've got going on here in this congregation, it's about speaking Jesus to people, and in a recovery world that, like I said, needs Jesus. There's we don't say doorknob or pray to a doorknob, or we don't say a higher power. We go into those treatment centers and we say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And we go out there to those recovery centers and we bring them people back here to West Des Moines Open Bible. And that's your opportunity to show them Jesus. And as a congregation, as West Des Moines Sober Soldierz, at a house of God, it's our opportunity and our obligation to show them we love God and love people well. And I think we're truly blessed by Victoria and Andrew, what they've done for us, giving us this opportunity. But I truly believe, after sitting with Ben and Lola, that our next step is here, and that step is God in recovery, and they're in full support of what we got going on. They've always believed in a recovery program. They've tried it before; it just wasn't their forte. But they are fully supportive of Sober Soldiers. I'm spitting a little bit, and I truly, and it's truly just a blessing. You're going to hear today from the people coming up to speak. These people have been truly a blessing in my life, in my recovery, in my walk of recovery, in my spiritual walk. Matter of fact, I married one of them. I'm trying to think of anything else I wanted to cover. Oh, I do want, before I introduce the first guest, I'm going to tell you, as many of you guys know, Cody and I, started this living in a recovery home. And we bring people in from Prelude to who we want to come live in our recovery home. And I had somebody I wanted to bring in, and Cody had somebody he wanted to bring in, and as soon as he mentioned that, I was like, oh, no. But it's just a testimony of you never know who can affect and encourage and enlighten your life. I still think the simple fact that I'd be there watching football, where he was taking a nap with one eye always on me. And the man, but the man has truly, and that goes for the whole church congregation. You never know who you're sitting next to right now. That future 1 year from now or 2 years from now could make a huge impact in your life. I talk to this man every morning, Monday through Friday, for about 15 to 20 minutes. There's always a phone call. So that just goes to prove, love people well. You never know who's going to make that impact on your life and who's going to make that impact on the Sober Soldiers family. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce everybody to Toby Johns.
I wish I would have brought my step stool, but we're just gonna have to make do with what we have here, right? So, most definitely. I find my steadiness in God, and I find my. Would you guys believe it if I told you? Would you guys believe it if I told you I am nervous? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Even a loud guy like me still gets a little shaky sometimes. So, but in my prayer, I find my steadiness in God. So, you guys all know me, Toby Johns. I'm a nice guy. I'm really outgoing, I'm friendly to everybody, but I have not always been this way. I have actually been the polar opposite of everything I am today for the entireness of my life. And so that's what I'd like to share with you a little bit today, a little bit of my testimony of just who I am and where I come from, and, the life I've lived and the life that, I chose to do, the sin I decided to live in. So, I was born and raised here in Des Moines, Iowa. So I was my mother's only child, and I was also, so my mom was the oldest, and I was the first grandchild. Me and my mom lived with my grandma for years. I think on and off, we went and stayed with some of her friends here and there or whatever, until I was about 7 or so. But during that entire time, me and my mom always shared a bed. You know what I'm saying? Always was together. But when we lived with my grandma, as the first grandchild, I had a super close, special bond with my grandma Patty. I was her Toby Boober Johns. Yeah, so when I was and I know, Boober Johns, I got that nickname because if you were a female and you picked me up, I grabbed, and then so it just stuck with me, so, yeah, isn't it cool? So, that's how you got Toby Boober Johns. So my grandma spoiled me, always took me on vacation with her, and we always spent a mad amount of time together. We would always do things like, we watched the Cops, the TV show Cops, like every night together. We would sing the song and everything together. I can't even tell you how many times we watched Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, Oh my God, I still love that movie because of the memories. But as I got older, my mom would not come home more and more, and it wore my grandma thin. But I was only a little child, I could see that she was thin, and I could see that her patience had ran. I bet in her mind she done did her time. She wasn't ready to take on a child. But I didn't understand it at the moment. I felt like the biggest burden and unwanted at that early of an age. It was my earliest feeling of being unwanted, but it was far from being the last time I felt like that. So the older I got, the more I was alone. At this time, I was only 5 years old, and I had several bars, numbers, memorized, and would call and call looking for my mom. And now this is back before cell phones or anything like that, so I got this long corded, 20-foot cord phone, looking for my mom at any one of these bars, Around 7, though, me and my mom got our own place, and I got my own bedroom finally for the first time. And it seemed great, and it really was for a short period of time, but my mom would be gone more and more, and now with no grandma, I was seriously lonely. My mom would come home drunk and upset about God only knows what, and would take it out on me. And my mom, she wasn't the slapping type. She was the punching and kicking me type. She seriously fought me as a child, as a grown man, punched me in the face, kicked me, things like that. And this went on for years. I'm telling you, and it being only me and my mom for, my whole life, like I was a mama's boy. And to tell you guys the honest truth right now, my heart still hurts not having my mother in my life, And it's hard for where we are and the way that it has to be, but it has to be that way, I guess. But I can even remember one time that my mom got crazy in her tactics, and she netted me with a blanket, and then she came and pummeled the blanket and kicked the crap out of it. I had a ton of anger and fear building up in me, and at about 11 years old, I tried to stand up for myself. I grabbed a big, heavy ashtray when she come to attack me, and I was like, you better just get away from me, And so she called the police. And when they got there, I was in a panic, I mean, listen, this is supposed to be the woman that's the closest to me, and she's actually the most, I'm in living fear of this woman constantly. And, she beat me up, and now she's called the cops on me, and she's trying to lock me up on top of it. I don't know if my mom seen an out in that moment, but she continually called the cops on me, and I would panic. And I knew I did nothing wrong, but they locked me up the last time this happened, and now I'm going crazy with the thought that they're going to lock me up again. And they did. And they did this, and we did this for the next 3 years. I was continually locked up by my mother for no reason. I had so much resentment built up inside me. I had a chip on my shoulder and started acting like a little punk because, I figured in my mind, if I'm going to be getting all this locked up, I'm going to earn this, I'm going to show out, Why wouldn't I? It didn't do me no good to be good, so let's go ahead and just be bad. And I started trying to find ways out of the house. I found my way in with an older group of people, and what is the coolest thing you can do at that young of an age, because they're drinking and things like that? I'd steal my mom's liquor. I'd hold my thumb on her bottle, and I'd pour it out, and then I'd go over to the sink, and I'd fill it back up with water, until she caught on, and then she poured the whole thing out, and there was only water that was in there. But I started to drink my mom's liquor and snoop through her room and found her drugs. I was only 14 years old the first time I stole her meth. And she never knew, but after that, I was always getting into her stash. Now, at a young age of 14, I'm living the fast life. I'm regularly doing hard drugs, drinking, and was dating a 17-year-old girl that had a car. I was like, skip this house. And I went on the run at, 14 years old. I was gone for like 6 months. And I remember in that time frame, I was in the back of 2 squad cars, right? And I don't know, I was on the spot, and they're like, what's your mother's phone number? And I was like, I just gave them the real landline number. But like I said before, nothing changed about her. She was always gone. So she didn't answer, so the cop would leave a message, but the cop didn't have nothing on me, so what would he do? He'd just let me go, and he'd say, you need to just get on home. But, she didn't report me missing or anything like that for that time period at that young of an age. Looking back at it, I can't really believe that, But then, during that time when I was on the run, eventually I was driving this car, and a cop got behind me. So what did I do? I stopped it, and I bolted. I ran. And it was in the middle of winter. And I'm pretty sure the cop just followed my footprints, because he definitely found me. Oh, man, yeah, there was no getting around that, bud. So when I got out of Meyer Hall and my mom didn't want me, so I went to stay with my Aunt Laura. I had a terrible attitude and got used to doing whatever I wanted. So when she tried to control me, I blew up and flew off the handle. So I moved with my mom, or no, excuse me. I didn't live with my mom for quite a while after that. So I moved with so after my aunt, couldn't control me, I moved in with my Aunt Marlena. And then after a few months of that she couldn't control me, I moved in with my grandma. Then back to my Aunt Laura's. Then one of my best friends, Danny's parents tried to take custody of me. And then back to Laura's. Then to my cousin Danny's. Back to Laura's. And then I got myself into a trouble that would send me to Woodward Academy. Now I'm like about 16 when I get sent to Woodward, so during this 14 to 16-year-old age, I didn't live no more for more than 3 months. You know what I'm saying? There was really nothing. I had no structure, no feeling of belonging, It set it in my mind that I didn't belong anywhere. Unwanted and unloved. I was in a really dark time in my life. I was in that boys' academy, Woodward Academy, for almost a year. It was supposed to only be a 4 to 6 month program. But they didn't want to place me back with my mom. I wanted to run, but it was 30 miles back to Des Moines, so what do? Trying to manipulate everything in my life at this point in time. I was like, well, I gotta build some endurance. So I started working out. I talked to the boot camp guy into waking me up at 5 a.m. to lift free weights. And I even seen a heavier set counselor that I overheard him talking about wanting to lose weight. And I remember hearing that they used to have a running club. So master manipulator inside me, you know what I did? I was like, hey, listen, you know what? We should start jogging. Hey, wasn't there a running club? We should get that going again. All the while, my underlying reasoning was to build endurance to run back to Des Moines. Really, it was. Hey, listen, all in all, I was working out 3 times a day. I actually ended up, while I was there at Woodward Academy, because I did work out that much and stuff like that. I won medals for lifting competitions and things like that. I was 140 pounds standing up. My first lift wasn't even until heavyweights lifted. So I, hands down, won the gold medal without even really having to try. Got really little ankles, but big thighs. Makes me agile. But I never ran. And even when I had the opportunity, I ran the Dam to Dam when that was still a thing, a half marathon, and it actually went right by my mom's house. We went right around the east side, but I still didn't run. And in my mind, what was I going to run back to? I had nothing here, I had nowhere that I ever felt like I fitted in. Fitted. I know, right? So, I was at 17 and they finally released me from Woodward, and I went to stay at my Aunt Marlena's. Now, my aunt let me do whatever I wanted to. I could drink, have girls, friends over whenever, and she would even come out and do the hard drugs with us. I had no kind of order or real guidance, and it led me to never going to school, and in turn, I was falling behind, and I actually had to drop out of East High School. So I was supposed to be a senior, but my credits only allowed me to be a sophomore. I'm not a dumb guy, I just didn't attend, and it showed and it affected my life, So, and I was really stoked too, because all that working out, I was in super good shape, best shape of my life, and I was ready to go out for the wrestling, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be killing it at 140 pounds, but I wasn't able to do it because to graduate on time, I would have to drop out of East High School, and I'd have to attend DMAC, to where I had to do the courses on my own. And so I did and they were very impressed by it. Well, math, of course I went for math first. That's my strong suit, So they said, hey, listen, we're very impressed by this. We'd like you to take this CAT test. And I think it was a California aptitude test. And after several months of doing some testing and things like that, I actually tested out of high school and got, my diploma on time. But I didn't know that it would freeze and lock my GPA and bring it over, so I only have like a 1.3 or something. No school, no rules. I was going extra hard on drugging and drinking. One night I decided to break into a car and steal their CD player. The guy definitely recognized me, and I was getting charged with my first felony, and I was only 17 years old. And getting bumped to adult court, no more minor hall. I was 17 and in Polk County Jail. I still didn't pull my head out of my butt. I didn't change my ways, and I would still drink and drug and do stupid stuff. Example, I thought it would be cool to throw rocks at semis on a high scooter, pulled the T handlebar out and was like, check this out. And I threw the bar, and surprise, surprise, it boomeranged back. and hit me in the face. Hence why I'm, one-eyed now. It crushed my face. It literally did, and it smoked me. I mean, I remember the feeling of like flying through the air. Like I almost felt like I could see myself from like somebody else's perspective. Just knocked me right out. Like, it didn't knock me out, but it blew me up and off my feet and way back. And I was bleeding everywhere. My friends were like, let's go to the hospital. And, but I was drunk and on felony probation, so I said, no, I'll walk it off. Real dumb, huh? Put some dirt on it. I eventually passed out and they took me to the hospital. I woke up in the ER, and from them pulling on my face, because you can only imagine, because it crushed my face. You can only imagine the swelling that went on and the hours that I still was drinking and not going to the hospital. I woke up from them pulling on it, and what I do, I immediately turned and threw up all over the doctor. And crazy coincidence, it was my girlfriend at the time, Heather's uncle. And so, yeah, and that never worked out, of course. I fell back out, and I woke up a couple days later in Iowa City. I remember looking, and I seen a nurse, and I was like, hey, my face must be really swollen. I can't see out of my right side. This lady gave me this look like, oh no. She put my chart away. She walked to the door. She looked over her shoulder and said, we had to remove your eye. And was like, and just left. Oh my God. I started saying, and I started yelling the dumbest things. I was like, I didn't sign for that. I didn't sign for that. What do you mean? Oh, dumb. But I panicked. I went to the mirror and I looked, and I looked like Quasimodo. I was distressed. I considered myself a real pretty man. And I was panicked. I grabbed the doctor and I said, tell me you put me back together, man. I was real pretty, and the doctor was like, you'll never look the same, because even though there's a little bit of differences, but for 2, 3 years, 4 years, my face actually slouched. It was about out to here and about down to there, I felt like I looked like a monster. I would even go as far to growl at kids that would look at me because I looked different, It led me in a really bad direction, and my self-confidence was just disintegrated, and I just, I didn't feel nothing about myself really. But did this change my thought process? Heck no. Still wasn't enough for me to change my ways, and eventually I got revoked, and I was 20 years old on my way to prison. I turned 21 in prison, and I was in hope of getting a reconsideration. After months of seeing other people getting theirs and things like that, I was like, man, this is supposed to be like a 90-day shock, I decided to write the judge myself. And because I've been in there almost a year, and so I wrote the judge and was like, hey, I haven't been in no trouble, I'm doing good. And you know what? 3 weeks later, I got a phone call, and I was getting released 3 weeks later after that out of prison. Yeah. But was it the better? Probably not, because I kept doing the same old dumb stuff. And then the remainder of my sentence, I served in 3 6-month blocks at Polk County Jail, back to back to back. I was a gray worker 3 times, so if any of you guys have been to Polk County Jail, you got to have some time to be that kind of an inmate worker, and it sucked. I'm telling you what, they just had it for me 6 months, and there ain't nothing worse than counting time. I just couldn't stay out of trouble. I couldn't see me being the problem in any of this, even though that now that I look back, I was the common denominator of all my hardships. Jumping forward a couple years, I'm free of any probation, and I'm living on my own, with all the same bad habits. I'm selling weed, I got a decent assistant general manager job, I'm making money and I'm doing things, but I still have that same terrible bad attitude, and it's only gonna get worse here. So I'm very self-centered, and now I become abusive to my spouse. For a long time, I was an abusive man. I've hit women, I've choked them, and I don't say this to be proud about what I've done, but I have to be real honest with the beast that was in me, because if I try to water it down, then who knows if it will try to, reemerge. So I keep it real with myself, and I know what I've done. I remember the time when, the last time I hit my girlfriend at the time, Nikki, and I could have swore she had a permanent black eye the time we were together. And I remember when she left me, I remember walking into my friend Brock's house, his mom and all that. We were neighbors, we were really close friends. And I felt like I could hear everybody's thoughts. what a pussy, what a POS, you know? Man, what a big man he is. And nobody said a word, but I felt like I could hear everything they were thinking. And the way I felt about myself was exactly what they were thinking, you know? And so what I do, I didn't date. I didn't do nothing with nobody for about a year. I didn't go try cat call at women, nothing. I just went and worked on myself because I know that this was a terrible piece of me that I needed to put to bed, you know? And I did. So, and then after coming back out of that, and after years of, and now mind you, still drinking and drugging though, always drinking and drugging. But after years of not seeing Danielle, which a little bit of backstory about Danielle, I met Danielle the first time when I was 4 years old. I remember catching spiders with her at her dad's house before I knew I was even scared of spiders. And we dated when we were 10 and 11 to 12 and 13, you know. We were little sweethearts. But then after years, I was 25, and you know what? She had several kids, and we decided to get together. It was good, and then it was bad. I mean, it was seriously, you know. I love that girl to death. I always will. She's a childhood sweetheart, but the things that we were toxic together. We went homeless together and started shooting drugs. You know, I went down that path with her. But still, nonetheless, you know, I try to do good and I try to get better. And we got pregnant, actually, and we were doing really well, and we got pregnant with my first son, Hayden. I decided to give up on trying to attempt to get my son back into my life. I decided to do meth instead. And one day I do know and acknowledge that I will have to tell him that. When he asks and he meets Maverick and he meets Tobias and he asks me, why didn't I not get to live with you? I'll have to let him know that, you know what, son, because I chose drugs. And that's just the truth of it. I don't feel like I want to water that down to him. I don't want to try to hurt his feelings, but I feel like I've already did enough to him to not tell him the, you know, man's truth about it. And then Danielle also lost all her other kids in the process of our drug addiction. What did we do? One day we decided that, you know what, hey, listen, this is enough. We got clean. We got clean. We did everything we could. We rode the bus everywhere. She got a job. I got me a little $10 an hour job, but we did whatever we needed to do, and it was the best. It was one of the happiest times of my life, and I remember that. And you know what? We dug and crawled and scratched to every bit of having that, and it was beautiful, and I loved it, and I will always hang on to those memories of that. Now, with no children, we wanted something to fill the gap, so we got a dog named Xena, warrior princess. And I loved that dog like she was one of my children. Okay, now I start to dib and dabble on the weekends and stuff like that, right? And what happens? Because I had a good amount of money in my bank account, but until drugs come into the situation, you really won't. And Xena ends up swallowing a child's binky. And the surgery that I did have money prior to doing the drugs, I could have gotten my dog fixed. She ended up dying because it was giving her a blockage and she couldn't get any nutrients in because she couldn't get nothing out. I didn't know how to accept it. I remember flying 140 miles down I-80 trying to get to this animal hospital, and Xena stopped breathing, and I yelled at Danielle, give her mouth to mouth. And I carried my dog in, and I remember feeling her last breath, you know? And that was it. And it sucked. It sucked really bad. And, you know, I was mourning, and I didn't have time to really accept what was going on in my life when that loss. And, you know, about 30 days of the day, Danielle dies. You know, she overdosed. And now and in the process though, she was pregnant with Tobias. You know, we had Tobias. And Danielle's dead now. I have a 2-month-old baby, and I'm drug riddled, and I don't know what to do with myself. I can't take care of myself, so what am I going to do now? I'm empty. So what do? I get a hold of my Aunt Laura, and I say, hey, I need you to take my child for right now. And she does. And I'm forever grateful for what she's done for me for that thing. But being so empty, you know, I didn't think about my child. I didn't think about anything like that. And I wonder, it's because I never really connected with him. Maybe subconsciously I didn't want to because I knew that I've lost a child before. But he was nowhere near the top priority in my mind. I didn't want to kill myself, but I'm going to tell you honestly, I don't care. I didn't care if that next shot killed me, or if I did something dumb and someone actually did something to end my life. I would fill that void with women and drugs. And now, and it was pointless and it was hopeless. But then now I met Melanie on Facebook dating. Woo! I wish it was a little bit more romantic, but I'm just gonna be real honest. But lying's not good, you know. So I showed up one day and asked if I could store some things at her apartment. But master manipulator, I was really moving myself in. Oh, it's too funny. Surprise. So I brought a whole new level of drug use into her life. And within about the first 30 days of being around each other, we got pregnant with Maverick. It was our Christmas surprise. Now, my drug use didn't stop, and if anything, with that kind of, really Melanie let me just kind of walk all over at first until she decided to fight back. And then it was, you wouldn't believe it now from the way we are now, but we were polar opposites of each other. We couldn't stand each other, plotted to kill each other. I can't tell you how many tires we popped from each other's cars. I remember this one time she popped all 4 of mine and sat across the street and waited for me to come out to my car. And then I tried to chase her with 4 flat tires. Yeah. But you know what, though? I remember and I was still womanizing. I was still doing things that, you know what, I shouldn't be doing. And I remember one day I woke up at the trap house and I looked in the mirror and I seen the reflection of who I was. And then it didn't appear back to me as a man that I portrayed myself to be, but as a 50-year-old hit, empty man. And I felt that that was that moment where I had divine intervention in my life and my calling from God. And he said, get up and leave. I didn't say anything to nobody. I got up, I walked away. My brother found me. I said, I need you to check me into Broadlawns Hospital. I'm empty. So he did. Melanie didn't even know. The night before she seen me, actually, I was passing out in and out on the side of her car, and she thought that I looked like death. And she was actually expressing to me the fear of that I'm going to die. And I probably was. But I went to Prelude, Iowa City, thinking, you know what, I'm going to go through this. But I went through it with the crappy mindset of, you know, being the master manipulator I was. I'm going to just Toby Johns this thing. You know, whatever. So I got kicked out. What'd I do first night? I started using meth. Did Melanie know? Negative. She did not, you know. But that was the beginning of a 3-month relapse. And now my son is born. I have nothing to provide, and if anything, I'm pulling Melanie back into the drugs. You know, what am I going to do? Am I going to become like my mother, an abusive, absent, you know, not a parent, but just as, you know, sperm donor? No. So what I do, I said, hey, listen, we got to hit the reset button. So I went back to Broadlawns, went to Prelude here on the east side, and then, woo! And I feel like God was working on me in little ways, you know, to start building me up. Little, and this time I did little victories, and I built myself up off of that. I went through Prelude, and I met TJ Vasquez and Cody Larson, you know, and they thought that I was still high because my eyeball didn't blink. The whole time. Yeah. But then I went through the program. I made it through every class. I woke up early. I started getting into my Bible. And I started to try to become more than what I was before. You know, I went through the halfway program. I successfully, well, they only had a month of it and they're shutting it down, but I successfully transitioned from that to the Kingdom Connections. And then from that, I moved into my own home finally. But that was like a year process, you know. I strongly urge you guys, if you're going through your things right now, just think about this. And I know we all want it now and we all want it yesterday, you know, but think about the small investment now for forever, you know, happiness. I'm here to tell you that, you know what, I've been lost, I've been broken, I've been wandering in the dark. But I can proudly tell you now that out of those ashes, I've been reborn. I have been reborn as Toby Johns. I'm a sober soldier, and I'm a warrior for God. Woo! I am not the man I was yesterday. And my chain is broken right here, right now. But I want you to know that I would never be able to make any of these things happen if it wasn't for each and every one of you. Do you guys believe in divine appointment? We are all here for a reason. And I believe that this is it, that we are here to uplift one another and bring out the best, you know, in each other. And I can tell you honestly that in this church, I have found that. I have found my wife that completes me. She's the most important, after God, she's the most important thing to me. I'm telling you what, that woman is everything I've ever wanted and more. And I know at a certain point that I never thought, after Danielle died, I thought that was it for me. I'll only have a girlfriend or somebody like that. I had my woman and she's gone now. But I want to share this one last thing that I remember I was unpacking my stuff and I seen these little coloring sheets, and one said love and then one said be kind, which that's when all of a sudden my spider sense started going off, because I'm a jerk, I've been. And then the other one said love from sea to sea or something, and I always thought it was weird because Danielle never repeated herself, but she always was astounded that I never seen the ocean and wanted to take me. And then the last page said, don't forget to learn to love again. And so that was when I feel like Danielle gave me my permission to love Melanie. And that's what I've done. I took her for granted, but I will not take my wife for granted now. I will not do that again. I don't want to take any of you guys for granted, But I've been married in this church. I've been baptized in this church. I've tackled Pastor Andrew at that baptism. And now I'm a proud member of this church and family. I would like to leave you with, I would like to conclude with Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can. I'm going to tell you right now, the path I'm on, I feel so successful and so driven, and I see things inside me that I never knew existed. And you have the same callings on your life. There's things that you can do that only you can do. You have a purpose. Psalms 105:1. Give thanks to the Lord and proclaim his greatness. Let the whole world know what he has done. And I do that by, look what Jesus did. Because I am nothing short of a miracle, and neither are you. But the woman I would like to introduce next is someone so very special, and I believe divine appointment into my life. She's a best friend of my family. She's been my counselor, my rock. She has one of the most kindest, loving hearts I've ever seen in my life. I thank God for you in my life today, because you know what? And I can't think of a life without you in it. And I'd like to introduce our CJ.
Sorry, guys. Hi, I'm CJ Vasquez, and I'm in recovery. And so, don't you just love that sound, recovery? I know I do. There was so many times before I really even, I guess my journey starts a long time, like from really the time I was born. My parents were, my mom got with an older guy, was married, and along came me. So my life and my journey into life was chaotic and hectic, and my family of my mom grew up with women, and they were fighting each other. It was like a soap opera all the time, sleeping with each other's husbands, competition, I want what you have. And so I didn't really have a lot of strong morals and values growing up. I pretty much lived, I want to say, in Sodom. But God found me. My testimony can be summed up with community evangelism. The people that you go door to door, the people you invite to VBS, the people that you speak life into, whether it's in a grocery store, whether it's, I always say you should have a 2, 5, 20, 30, 45-minute testimony in your pocket, because if you're in the line at the bank, you could speak Jesus to somebody. If you're in the grocery store, just talking. I know after the pandemic, I talked to a lady for 2 hours in the store because I'm like, people exist. And so, but we talked about life, and you could talk about Jesus. And I love talking about what Jesus did in my life, because I came from nothing. I was going to be nothing. And, I was that little girl that was still in those tracks that the Mormons left. The Jehovah's Witness left a book of Bible studies. And I was reading about Adam and Eve and reading about creation. And they're just children's stories. And I loved King Solomon. To this day is my favorite character. But I was that little girl, 5, 6, 7 years old, dreaming to be that person on Jesus' lap at the end of the Bible stories book because my life was chaotic and hectic. You know, I have every abuse you could imagine that happened to me. I've been thrown against walls as a child. I've been sexually abused. I've been, child pornography. I've been anything that you could imagine a little girl went through, I went through, but God bless me. You know, he makes us special and unique. Even though all those things were going on in the inside of my home, on the outside, I was this perfect little girl. I knew no stranger. You know, from the time I was little, there would be a bum walking down the street, and I would just smile and welcome them and love them like I still had joy in my heart. And I believe it was because of those seeds that people came and planted. It was those books of love that people left. You know, those stories they were sharing with my parents. My parents could care less, but I did as a little girl. You never know what you're telling someone, what person's watching. You may not know, but I'm a product of that. I'm a product of all the fruits, all the seeds that people planted. I'm that fruit. And so fast forward, my life, you know, even though it was hectic, it was, you know, you're a product of it. You don't know it's bad. And then when I hit 14, my parents, their drug use spiraled out of control. And my home became drug dealing, people shooting up in the bathrooms, police raids, being surrounded at get and go by, federal agents, being left at night school till 10, 11 o'clock at night at East High School because my parents were, busy doing their drug things. Being picked up from school even became kind of crazy. My stepdad would think that the kids surrounding the corner were informants, and so he'd pull his gun out in the middle of East High School, shooting up in the middle of 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And invisible was my life from 14 to 18. I felt invisible, like, does anybody not see this? And so my brother and I, we would go for a car ride, and we would have to be the lookouts. My stepdad would sleep, and we would have to be the lookouts, and if he would wake up, he would beat us because we weren't looking out the window. And so our lives just became unbearable. And by the grace of God, one of my friends whose mom was also a drug dealer, her house was safer, and she ended up calling DHS. And by this time, I became pregnant, and my pregnancy was a product of being sexually abused. My stepdad and my mom would give me drugs because it was easier to abuse me, and to me, those drugs became my synthetic identity. So all the spiritual food that I had up until that point left, and I had this synthetic identity. And, I could be those girls in the magazines, in my mind, because all that stuff was gone. I was just numb. And I had this fake person who I was. Every insecurity, I could eat whatever I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted because I had something synthetic feeding me. But at the end of the day, I was hollow and empty and sad and depressed. And then I found out 15 years old, I'm pregnant. And so that was the hardest thing because I knew deep down, I kind of ignored my pregnancies. And it wasn't until 2 weeks into, before I was to deliver, that the school called me and said, hey, we think there's somebody that said you're pregnant. And I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. She's like, when are you due? And I said 2 weeks. And I hid it for that long from school, from everybody. My parents knew. They knew, but it was 5 months before they knew. And they wanted me to have an abortion, adoption, all these things. And they really it was probably the first time at 15 years old that you have an adult choice to make. And it was the biggest choice of my life, and I had no idea how to make this choice. And I just remember the pressure of my parents. And I went downstairs in the basement and I just wept. And to be honest, I tried to beat my own child out of me at 15 years old because I wanted that pressure to go away. And I just remember the first time God spoke to me was at that age, and God just said, I will be that child, and just trust me. And so I did. I picked myself up. You know, I still carry that guilt sometimes, but what do you do at 15? You know, you do what you can. And so I just remember, though, that peace stayed with me, that God was going to take care of me. And so then fast forward to April 1st of 96, and I go into labor, and my daughter's coming out breech, and but they don't know that in the doctors. And so like I said, my daughter, she was coming out, she was going to be born, and they don't know that she's breech until they break my water, and then they're rushing me to emergency C-section. So then my daughter's born. She's this perfect little fold up, 8 pounds, 7 pounds, 8 ounces, normal baby. But here I am, 10 days in the hospital, emergency C-section, a fever of 104, you know, blood pressure 235, like probably fighting for my own life to live for first few days. I didn't even get to see my daughter. I saw her when she was born, passed out, and didn't get to see her for 3 days after that. And so I'll find out when I come to that I'll never be able to have kids again. And so here I am. It's not a burden, but it's the most beautiful thing as a woman is to have a baby. You know, all the dreams that you dream of at 14 to, you know, have, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a baby and a baby carriage. All that is taken away from me. But I do the right thing, and I care for this daughter because I remember that God said he will take care of me and he will be her father. And so I do the right, responsible thing, and I love this baby because I'll be honest with you, I had all these images at 16, because I was 16 at this time now, that this baby would look horrific, you know, but she came out, she was beautiful. It was probably all the morphine, all the drugs I was on from having a baby, but she looked like an angel to me. Like, she was this beautiful little angel I got to have. And even though it wasn't the experience I dreamed of, it was still, you know, a life that belonged to me to take care of and be responsible for. So fast forward, my daughter is 3 weeks in, and our house gets raided. And in that raid, they find child pornography, and they find pictures, and they're pictures of me, pictures inappropriate that a child should not be put into. And so the federal agents surround me, and they ask me about these, and they want to know who the father of my child is. Like, so much interrogation at 16. And so they arrest my stepdad, and I have to walk home because we weren't at home when we arrested, because they didn't find anything in the raid, but when they surrounded him at the get-and-go is when they found those things in his wallet, and they find videos in his car and stuff like that. But I have to walk home, so I have to walk at 9:30 at night at 16 years old after, all this stuff. And then I get home, and my aunt picks us up, and we go to Van Meter, and then life gets kind of crazy from there. I have to go in front of a judge, talk to DHS, talk to the district attorney, because they want to know who's this person in these pictures, who's this person. So then all the way from there, I'm honest with them, and then they let him out of jail. So then the legal system does me no justice. He kidnaps me, my brother, and my daughter, and my mom, and his girlfriend. And we go on a 2-week journey through Colorado. And so we're in 2 high-speed chases, one at night, and we get away. And then the next one, it was like an episode of Cops, but like with guns firing and everything. And I remember just feeling like there's an angel over our vehicle, protecting us at the last police chase. And my stepdad, to know some backstory, he was a stock car race driver. He was, very in the fast lane. Everybody trusted him. He was just your really good guy on the outside guy. No one ever would have imagined what he had become, what his addiction had made him into me. And so, anyways, fast forward, and me and my brother and my mom, so we get in a car accident, him and his girlfriend leave. He actually ends up committing suicide because he doesn't want to go to prison for his things that he did. And then, for the first time, I'm in a police officer's, first and only time, in the back of a squad car, handcuffed. We're in a little tiny holding cell, and then the police officers let us out, and there's this police officer in McCook, Nebraska, who wants to have coffee with me the next day, but I ended up leaving, and so I get a letter later. But what he wanted to speak into me that night in his letter that I still have today, he told me that I didn't have to be a product of my environment, and he told me that there was a Savior that loves me. And so this police officer, from the time I have been grown up, police have been bad people to us. You know, they would tear our family apart, you know, all these things. But this police officer went out on a limb for me, and he shared his faith. He shared about how his childhood was bad, how he got into drinking, you know, all these things. But, you know, even though he told me that, even though he planted that seed, it took me 2 years. Because when I turned 18, and believe me, I've been through everything. I've been through foster care. I've been through Lutheran. I've been through House of Mercy. There is not anything that I haven't been through that I can't relate to you with in recovery. My stuff was just all pre-18, but at 18 years old, I had my own apartment. I look around. I was 6 days in. I look around, and it's just like my childhood home. Drugs, abuse, people shooting up in the bathrooms. Like, I just was a product of my environment reincarnated again. And all that I kept thinking before I took one more hit was, I didn't have to be a product of my environment. There was a Savior that loved me. And then I saw a flash of my future, and my future would have been prostitution, institution, just like it was in my own family. You know, I come from the 1800s. I could trace back prostitution and institution was every woman in my family. That was their legacy. That's what they're a product of. And I did not want to do that. I wanted to be a better mother, that my daughter deserved better. And so I walked away from everything that I knew, everything, to follow a Savior that loved me, because I wanted to be that little girl on Jesus' lap. I wanted that so much. And so I walked away. And then that August, I went to a retreat, basically it was teen camp. And I had the best experience of my lifetime. I learned 1 Corinthians, you know, God is love. But I learned about forgiveness. I learned how to forgive my stepdad for what he did to me. And that he deserved a place in heaven too, if God forgave him. God knew his heart. And so I had to forgive that. And I had to trust, because when I left, I'll be honest with you, I tried NA, and I tried AA, I tried to get clean, I tried therapy, I tried everything, but I needed a bigger book. I needed a bigger sponsor. I couldn't trust any of those intimate things that I've been with just anybody, because I'll be honest, I tried with a young moms group I was in. I was driving, and we were just sharing stories. She almost drove off the road when I was telling her my story. So some things people can't digest, you know? And so I needed a bigger sponsor. I needed a bigger book. And in this book, I found that what you speak into existence becomes life. You know, in Proverbs, sorry, it's on my phone, but in Genesis 3, God spoke, let there be light, and there was. He showed us how to speak into life, you know? And in Proverbs, it supports that, you know? Because what we speak about ourselves becomes darkness or light. And up until then, I was complete darkness, you know, in what I claimed myself to be. But when I was a new creation in Jesus, you know, in God, I speak light. I speak Jesus because of what he's done for me. I am up here because of what he's done for me. I'm able to battle these things. You know, my daughter's 26 years old, and she has her own battles. but I was able to get her out of foster care because she went into foster care. I jumped through them hoops. You know, I became everything. I was the exception, not the rule. Everybody in society said, you were going to be this. I was going to be that institution, prostitution, but I was not in Christ. I am the exception to the rule, because when you have Christ, you become anything that he wants for your will, you know? In, sorry, it just like flew out of my head. But, all those stories in the old helped me. Those were my therapies. Hagar, you know, Abraham's Egyptian slave, that she was forced to have a child because that was the common tradition back then. But God saw her, and God saw me that day. You know, when, fast forward a little bit, I was the woman at the well. My family rejected me because they believed he was a better man. You know, that I would enticed him at, you know, since I could remember, I was abused, but I enticed him. So my family stoned me and disowned me, but the woman at the well became me. The woman that, you know, Jesus said not the woman at the well, sorry. The woman, if, you know, like, let thee without the first stone cast the first, you know, thee without sin cast the first stone. You know, I learned that it didn't matter what they believed, because what he believed was right. I was blameless, you know, I was sinless in his eyes. I was the woman at the well that God opened up and saved everything from, you know, and if you follow the well, it's beautiful, because at the beginning, the well was just intended for God's chosen people, but that woman opened it up for all of us. All of us can come to Jesus, and he shows us that he's love, and he loves us unconditionally right where we're at. God doesn't call us out, he calls us in. He calls us in we're here by an appointment, his divine appointment, not because he wants to call us out. I looked up addiction in the Bible, in the New King James Version, in 1 Corinthians, I think it's 16:15, it says that we are supposed to run feverishly after him like addiction. It doesn't say what the addiction person is. God's not calling us out. He's calling us in to chase him like we chase our addictions. And he even points out the Stevens, or I can't remember what their names, but they're also one of the first people that God gave fruit to. They're his first fruits. That Paul gave first fruits to. Just like West Des Moines Open Bible gave fruits from, you know, Dwayne, from prayer. Prayer is Sober Soldier's first, you know, we're the product of that, from, you know, Dwayne saying that prayer works. Grant praying 25 years for TJ. Prayer works. You know, it's not, you know, even fast forward, prayer is still working through Sober Soldierz, through my breast cancer. You know, I ask God all the time, why did I have to go through that? I've been through so much. But when you come to Christ, it isn't about this sorrow is not going to hit you. It's what are you going to do in the sorrow? We're going to pray, and that's what we did. Millions of people prayed. It was contained. It was removed, and we go on to the next battle. We armor up, and that's what God is about. It's not about my life is going to be great, because I learned that from reading my Bible at the beginning. It says that the world will tell you that God's blessings are by our eyes. But God's not by sight, he's by faith. We don't walk by sight. Just because they have this beautiful house don't mean it's not empty inside. You know, we could have, you know, look at, Carrie and I do a Bible study every Monday, and we're learning about Abraham, and you can't wreck the life, you know, the plans God has on your life. And we learn about, you know, Lot and Abraham, and how he built his house close to Sodom. But Abraham built it far away from there. And look at the difference in their lives. You know, when you are by corruption, you will be corruption. But when you feed yourself with God, you will be with God. And Abraham, he messes up. Oh my gosh, he messes up. In my life, I've messed up. But we still have the favor of God, because we not only know of God, we walk with God every single day. We get up and we read our Bibles. We watch Toby Worldwide. We have a Bible study, you know, and that's why Sober Soldierz, you know, because God is simple and profound. And back in, I want to say it was back in with Constantine. He brought pagans and Christians together, and I'm not saying that AA and NA and all those are, but those are the fruits of that. Let's create something new. But you know what? Jesus has been working. Why reinvent something new? He's been working since he came. And so we don't need a 12 steps. We don't need a sponsor. We have everything we need. You know, I call my Bible my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because it is everything I need to know is in that Bible. Every scripture helps me to set boundaries. Proverbs, I need intellectual wisdom, read Proverbs. I need emotional wisdom, I read Psalms. You know, I even learned one of my favorite things in Esther is like you can get just from one chapter. You don't need to speak like a whole entire sermon. You don't need to be a sentence. And it said that in Esther, we always talk about Esther, but what about Princess Vashti? What about her? You know, she did the right thing when King, I cannot pronounce his name, but when the king said, because he was drunk with all of his friends after a party, he wanted his queen to come and dance and parade around the men. She stood her ground. She stood that I am not that woman. And she was cast out as queen, and that's opened the door for Esther. But in 1 minute, you get to see what it's like to be a woman of honor by reading her story, and you will miss it. But when you find it, it's beautiful. And to me, she's a role model. She stood her ground. She didn't have to chase after. She didn't have to. She did the right thing and even honored her husband. Even doing the right thing. Even though he left her, she honored him, you know, as a queen. And so, to conclude my message today, and I really hope that anybody that has some dry bones, that they come alive, because we're here to change the bias of recovery. We're not that Hollywood flair of this person's rode off. No, we are here. There's a chair in the middle of the room, and we breathe life into that chair every Thursday. We pray for people that we love, for people that we don't even know about, because TJ's walking life 25 years, and look what God can do in your life. He's working on you. We're sanctified. And so, to end this, I want to introduce my lovely friend, and why she's so special to me is she's my recovery full circle. So remember that drug dealing friend's mom that I had that was my sanctuary, my safety? Well, I walked away from everybody, everything, and never looked back. And God has blessed me because of this recovery family to have a place where that person in my life can come back to. And so Carrie Wilson, her aunt was my sanctuary. Her aunt and her cousin was my best friend ever. And I get to have recovery full circle. I get to have a place where we can party hard with no substance. We don't need synthetic. We don't need a synthetic identity anymore. We have Christ, and I'm telling you, you can have a revival in Christ, absolutely. You know, you can have that rave that you want. You can see that Hollywood flair. You can have it without substance, and you can have a great time, because I'm telling you, when I come here on worship, that fills me up till next Sunday. It is more than any intimacy I will ever get on this earth. Yes, coming here, having that worship with God is more than anything that could ever substitute out there. And with that,
I love you too, CJ. I'll bring your phone down when I'm done. Okay, so my name is Carrie, and I'm in recovery. I don't have anything written down at all whatsoever. I spent the last 2 weeks nervous as all get out, because to follow Toby and then to follow CJ, I'm like, oh great, these guys picked a real great time for me to hop in this, right? Because I'm not as well seasoned as they are. I am, what are we, 29 weeks into actually reading the Bible. And not just reading it, but to comprehend it and to be able to understand exactly what I am reading. I've seen scriptures all over the place. You know, people wear them on their shirts. They got little, you know, bookmarks and things like that. But that doesn't mean that I understand it or I comprehend it. So I basically just decided that I'm just going to be me. Rather than me trying to compare myself to what Toby and CJ or the next person is going to say, I'm just going to do me. So I know that's right. So for the last, I want to say 6 months, I have heard over and over and over again, be a light, right? There's several verses in the Bible that talk about the light. And so that's just stuck out with me a lot. A lot of people don't know this, but I am scared to death of the dark. I always have been. If you guys follow me on Facebook, which I'm refraining from for 30 days, I always post Goodnight Moon, right? So the picture of the moon for me is extremely special. So my mother gave me a flashlight when I was a child, and I kept that on until it would no longer work. When you're scared of the dark, you always need a light, right? So in the nighttime, where else do you get light from? You know, a lot of times when we were kids, we didn't have electric in our home, so where would we get the light from? So I would go outside and I would lay underneath the stars and I would see the moon, and the moon is the biggest light that you see, you know what I mean? My son Carter, who decided he's going to take off and go outside right now. Oh, I'm just playing. I love you. I didn't see you, bro. I didn't see you. Okay, anyway, so he wrote me this letter when I was in prison, and that opened up the gates for me in order to open up the Bible. It was something that I never cared for. I was brought up a Jehovah's Witness, and it was forced upon me. It is not something that I look forward to. It's something you had to dress up for. You weren't allowed to wear crosses, you know, and people shamed me because my mother sent me a cross from here in Iowa to Newburyport, Massachusetts, and they shamed me for wearing that cross. But I was not going to take it off because my mother gave it to me. I don't care what the meaning of it was. You know what I mean? My mother gave it to me, so I wore it proudly. But they shamed me for it because you're not supposed to worship the cross, right? So religion or even spirituality has been something that has always been hard for me. CJ came in to Sober Soldierz, right? Or came into Bernie's, which is where I was at the recovery home, and she came in and she was talking about Sober Soldierz. With my son Carter's letter that he sent me to prison, that made me open up the Bible. What he said to me was heartfelt, and it really showed me, he wrote me verses about basically just stop following the bad people. You know what I mean? And he in the bottom of his letter, he wrote, he believes in you and so do I. That to me was huge. And so when I got out of prison and I went to Bernie's and these guys came in, Anne decided that she was going to push me towards Sober Soldierz. And I was like, I'm not doing it, dude. I'm not Bible thumping. I'm not doing it. And look at me now, right? Anyway, yeah, let me tell you about my Jesus. So anyway, my walk is different. My walk is not the same. My walk is not like everybody else's, and that's okay. That is one of the reasons why CJ and I do our Bible studies on Monday night, is to show that I'm going to ask those questions. I was just telling JJ when CJ brought up the let there be light, right, in Genesis 3. So I really thought that was a movie quote. You know what I mean? The guy's like, let there be light. And I thought that came from a movie. And he's like, oh, that's cute. And I'm like, yeah, but then I felt real dumb. But I was like, what? That's really from the Bible? I didn't know that. But that's the thing, is that that's one of the reasons why, like, so Sober Soldierz came into my life, and this is what they're teaching me, that it's okay to ask questions that you don't understand. It's okay to see things from your own perspective and not be judged. It's okay to not get along with everybody. It's okay to stand up here by myself and be nervous, but know that everybody out here still cares about me. You know what I mean? And that's okay. Sober Soldierz, my son led me to the Bible, right? And then the Bible led me to Bernie's, because otherwise I would not have made that choice if it weren't for the verses that my son wrote me. And then Anne led me to Sober Soldierz, and then Sober Soldierz led me here to this church. At the end of the day, it's God that led us all here. While CJ was up here talking, and I was like, I'm so nervous, and he was like, Mom, don't be nervous. Don't worry, we've been back there praying for you. So as my kids sit here today, and I listened to a conversation with them last week about how beautiful it was that they're both coming to God. And then you know what my son Carter said? He said, all right, so now all we got to do is we got to get Caleb, right? So a stepmother sent me a thing, she said, hit list for God, right? I'm like, oh, great. That's perfect. So back to the original thing that I was talking about, right? The whole light thing. So right now I'm actually reading out of the Bible Remix. It's the Message Remix. So it's a contemporary language for everybody to be able to understand. If you don't comprehend, wherefore art thou Romeo type language, you know what I mean? Which is in the old school Bibles. So I got this because I did not understand that. It was not something that I could read. So in Matthew 5:14, it says, here's another way to put it. You are here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make light bearers, don't you think, or you don't think that I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. So that right there, in that language, I get it, and I understand. With the other Bibles, the NIV version, it describes being a lamp, right? And God is the light, so God lights the lamp. So if you carry a lamp, you're going to carry it in front of you, and you can only see so far, right? But it's not your job to see further than what that light provides, right? So how far that you were supposed to be able to see. With that being said, Sober Soldiers shined that light on me and shined where I want to go with my life and to be able to help others. God gave us two hands, right? One to reach back, one to keep going, and one to reach back, right? So that's what we've done with Sober Soldiers. We go into recovery homes. We come to here to this church. You know what I mean? We bring people. It's okay as well. We can love each other. We don't have to like each other. I'm just saying, throwing that out there. So, I mean, this is some serious stuff, okay? Anyway, so with that being said, from CJ coming into Bernie's and shining her lamp to show me the way of the path that I wanted to go, we then went into Prelude. And we go in there every single week. Every single Sunday we go to Prelude, right? And we help people who are fresh in recovery. They might still be coming down off of the drugs or the alcohol that they're on. They might still be high. They might not even want to be there or want to even proceed from that. It might be forced on them, right? Your court order to be there, right? But recovery is what you make it. And so we go in there and we shine our lights the best that we can, our lamps the best that we can, and we attempt to guide people to God because that is what we're called to do, right? So with that being said, I'm going to introduce the next person in line, Mr. JJ.
You did awesome. Hey family, what's up? So, before I start, I just want to say that I thank God for being here, and I thank God for all of you for being here right now. And I am a product of the Prelude bunch that Sober Soldiers, God used them to go to Prelude to kind of reach out to us, and they do a good job. We go in and we try to reach the hearts of people who are suffering, who are still going through stuff in their life. And I'm just going to go ahead and read the scripture real quick first before I start. And it's Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. You know, that really rings out for me because in my journey in recovery and for my testimony today, you know, I was going down a path where God actually intervened into my life. And for the first time in my life, I got to see myself like for what I truly was and what I was doing. And it was weird. It was like watching a movie, but I was in it. And so I kind of saw like what was going to happen step after step. If I kept doing this, what was going to happen? If I kept doing that, what was going to happen? And then I was like, man, like I don't want to go down that path no more, you know. I had a sense in my mind or in my spirit from God, I feel that I needed to change my life. And I needed to do it quick because the path that I was going down was like not a good one. And so, you know, I'm not a beast like them, and they kind of remembered there, so I kind of wrote mine out. But I'll just go ahead and start. The blood and the power of Jesus Christ lives in us all. He lays out a path of life and death, wanting us to choose life, not death. And I really started to believe that when I saw my life going down the wrong direction, down the wrong path. God allowed me to see myself the way I was going. Jesus reached me on a personal level, and I felt an overwhelming feeling of peace and confidence to change my life and start building my relationship with him. Shortly after, I made the choice to check myself into Prelude Rehab because I was not living to my fullest potential. So when I was there, I believed that God used Prelude to isolate me from the world so that he can start molding me and healing my spirit in the process. And right there, I'll stop right there real quick because God, he will do that to us. Like, we are his, he loves us, and he cares about us. And I felt like I made that little small step towards him, and I had that mustard seed of faith. And God took it and just ran with it because he's like, okay, that's all I wanted. So now I'm about to shut you off from the world real quick, and I'm going to put you over here where you can be safe, where I can start working on you, where I can start building your spirit back up, giving you some spiritual food and spiritual nourishment. You know, that's all he wanted, for me to just make that little small cry out to him, and he just started working on me from there. You know, a lot of people kind of look down on Prelude or the rehabs, but what most people don't know outside looking in, like the people that are in there, God is protecting them right now. He's shielding them away from the world. He's shielding them away from Satan so he can strengthen them and so they can go back out, you know, and face the devil head on. Because the one thing that Satan doesn't count on, he doesn't count on people or recovery families like Sober Soldiers because they're so connected with God and Jesus. While God was using Prelude to isolate me and to build my spirit back up, God led me to the Sober Soldiers. They were able to come in there and they gave me that same peace and confidence, the same peace and confidence within me when I got to hear them speak, Carrie and all them, Cody, TJ, all of them, Toby. You know, I felt that same peace and confidence, you know, that God had blessed me with to make that general step in my life. And I started thinking, I was like, you know, I need to be a part of this. This is where I want to be. I literally heard a voice said, go with them, for sure, go with them. And everything that Carrie, CJ, TJ, Cody, you know, I can name everybody, Tony, everybody, you know, I love you all, but I got to hear all of them speak when I gave myself and my will over to God. Like, I seriously got down on my knees while I was in Prelude. I was in my Bible. I was in my word. I was on my hands and knees. And what that did while God was working on me, he started to unblock my ears and open up my eyes. And I was able to hear him when he came to me and when he talked to me, you know. And at the same time, like, it just like took me over, you know. Like, God was just evident in that group. And I walked up to TJ for the first time and I was like, you know, this is where God wants me to be. Like, well, right now, like, we're full. Like, we don't have any openings. We won't have any openings until like around July. And at that time, I was already on fire for the Lord. I was like, well, I know you're telling me that, but you know the God that I serve, like, he's already going to make a way. You know, he's going to make a way no matter what. And he kind of just smiled and said, okay, well, we'll see you next week. And, you know, like, everybody was like, you know, Kingdom House or this or Tim's Club or something. Like, those are awesome groups, very awesome groups. But, like, I wasn't set on that. You know, all those offers were coming to me. They're like, you can leave right now and do that. And I'm like, nope. You know, I had my little, my walk of faith. It was almost like Peter being on the water, you know. I had the faith that I was just going to step out, and if that didn't pan out, I was going to go out there and just try and, like, make it on my own. But I prayed to God. I said, Lord, I felt like you led me to this group. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm just going to keep my faith and keep doing what I need to do in Christ, keep building others up in Prelude as well, because I ended up starting to get like a Bible study group started in there and stuff. I still kept doing what I was doing, but it was kind of discouraging, like, not knowing that I possibly couldn't have got in. But I just kept, you know, grinding hard and grinding for the Lord. The next week, I went to hear them speak, and they got to hear my story. I remember it was Toby, Cody, TJ. They all came to me, and they were like, you know what? They're like, we don't know what it is about you. They're like, we actually want to, like, open a spot up for you in our own home, our personal home, and you're going to come with us. To them, and God led them to me, I feel, you know, because for the first time, like, I have a really big family. You know, you all are my family. Like, I love all of you all, and I thank God for all of you all. And it's just been, you know, like God has just taken me to the stars and moons since then, you know, just having everybody's support and strength and hope through Jesus Christ. Like, it's allowed me to get a job. Like, you know, I have a full-time job as a commercial plumber. You know, I'm still an apprentice in training, but I just recently got a pay increase. You know, I'm working towards rebuilding my life, getting a car, just making myself back self-sufficient. And I'm only doing that because of my connection through Jesus Christ and my Sober Soldierz recovery family, allowing their spirits and souls to be open and willing for God to use them to sow into me. You know, because a lot of times it's so easy to just praise the person or the event, but now with my spiritual eyes, I see that God is really using all of you all to sow into me, and that's how much he cares about me. That's how much he cares about you all. He will use us to bless each other. There's this one story where there's a guy, and he saw an old lady, like, kind of struggling. And he was like, Lord, like, I pray that you just bless that lady with everything that she needs. You know, just help her and bless her health. And God came back down to him, and he said, that's what I created you for. You know? He created us to bless and help each other. You know, on to another person. You know, and lift that person up as iron sharpens iron. You know, that's what it says, like a friends, you know. We have that one hand up and a hand out to help each other and bring each other up through the power of Jesus Christ. And just to continue to just have that brotherly love. But, you know, I'm still on my world, and I'm learning, and I'm still burning. You know, I'm going hard for the Lord. I love you guys. I'm going to introduce you guys to another great mentor in my life. You know, he gives me advice. A lot of times I really don't listen, but, you know, that's it's the same relationship that I have with Jesus Christ, too, because he gives me advice, and I don't listen to him either, but they still love me. Love you, Jesus. But, yeah. Okay, so Cody Larson. All right.
Chill. I'm Cody. And I am not an addict because I do not do drugs. You see how that works? However, I am in recovery. And I am along with TJ, one of the founders of Sober Soldierz. It's kind of a long, long story, so I hope you guys got plenty of time. I'm just kidding. So I have a lot of stuff that I prepared to say and a lot of stuff that I wanted to share with you guys. And I feel like the best way to go about that is just to give you an open invite into a look into our week with Sober Soldierz and the things that we have going on. That's my signature move, by the way. If I can't see you, you can't see me, right? Sorry. Too many buttons. The biggest thing I want to say right now is to say a thank you for the extended church service this morning, allowing Sober Soldierz to come into West Des Moines Open Bible and take over the church and share a piece of what me and TJ have started, because of the love that you guys shared with us. We were able to give back and reach out. Like Carrie said, we were able to keep our hand going forward and our hand reaching back or something like that. And we brought Toby and JJ and Carrie, and, CJ showed up somehow. And... And all these people that are just, a part of our lives. The best way that I can explain how Sober Soldierz works, it's like one of those, it will forever just be the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life. When we came to West Des Moines Open Bible, we approached Andrew. I was a nervous wreck. I couldn't stand up here and talk to anybody. I couldn't hold a microphone. That's a little piece of my growth story. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just saying it because I wrote it and I just need to scroll past it. But we had no idea what it would look like. We had no idea the direction of Sober Soldierz. We didn't know what truly we were going to bring to the table to impact West Des Moines and just the Des Moines metro area in general, as far as a recovery program. And through the purpose statement. What's a purpose statement? Loving God and people well, right? You guys have instilled that into me and TJ, and we turned around and put that as part of our heart. The heart on our sleeve. We bring that into treatment centers and recovery groups and programs and social media, and we bring that in and talk to people about what truly is the only step. There's one step. I don't care what anybody says. That's opening your Bible, mending those bridges with your families, and regrowing your family. And that's why Sober Soldierz stands firmly on the ground that God and recovery must come first. Without those two things, I would not be standing here talking to you guys today. Through trial and error and stuff like that, we used to have a meeting. We sat up here like a panel, like we were the wisdom makers, and we knew all the knowledge, and everybody was going to ask us questions, and we felt so uncomfortable. We eventually convinced TJ over there to let us have a circle like the other 12-step traditional meetings do, and we all sit in a circle now, and we talk about our feelings and emotions and family life, and it's just a wonderful thing. I super encourage you guys to come out here Thursday night. We call it the family meeting. It's 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. It also gets broadcasted live onto the Sober Soldierz page. Please jump on there and join that if you're not a part of that page. There's so much going on, and you never know. Just like that puzzle piece, you might be the piece that fits into somebody else's life, and you might be able to help somebody. You might be able to be somebody's light. Thanks to that, Carrie. I was thinking about how to word that. Anyways, I just want to talk about the things that we have going on here, and I'm going to end this real quick here. Monday night, we have the girls' Bible study. CJ and Carrie get into the Bible. It's like gangster meets God kind of thing. You know what I mean? They got CJ who's got the wisdom, and they got Carrie who's got the questions. Where's the dinosaurs? Tuesday, this was put on me and TJ's hearts to have a gender-specific meeting where men sit downstairs in the little room and women sit up here in the big room because they're louder. And so you're laughing louder. So there's just some things in recovery that men have to talk about in a group of men, and women have to talk about in a group of women. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I truly feel that part of that is a process to that one step that I'm talking about, and that's the process of healing from some sort of addiction. The next thing we have going on is the Wednesday night. We at the Sober Soldierz home, we sit around, we have a meal, we have our private in-home Bible study that we do. We watch a movie or something. It's real cool. We usually try to pick something that will get us into the scripture a little more and learn some stuff, because sometimes that's how I learn better, is by watching, not reading or listening. And but also Wednesday night we have the Bible study here in the church that a lot of people from Sober Soldierz do come. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is the congregation that doesn't normally come Wednesday night, come Wednesday night. And like TJ was saying, you might show up Wednesday night and see someone that you know you can say something to them that change their life forever. There is not. Again, Thursday night is the family meeting. We would like to invite everybody to come out at least once. Come hold the microphone. Come introduce yourselves. Come see what you see. Dwayne made it. We love that dude. He made it. He shared his heart with us. That was really nice, But just encourage you guys to come out 7 o'clock. We're all here. There's a little bit more swearing sometimes, and it's just a good time. Just come on out and be a part of that. Friday night, this was something that me and TJ started months ago. We started going live on Facebook. Every Thursday night, a member of Sober Soldierz actually opens the meeting, so it's family driven. There is no scripture or words or a book or something that we pick out of. It's a message from the heart of a member of a Sober Soldierz family. Is something that they've been struggling with, or something that they're very knowledgeable about that they want to share with us. And so Friday nights we introduce that member who's going to be opening. We talk about the week prior. We make sure that we recap all the events that we have coming up, because we have a lot going on. And really there's only a couple of us that are trying to do all this. That being said, Saturdays and Sundays, obviously Sunday we're here, supporting West Des Moines Open Bible. But Saturdays, the first Saturday of every month, we do have a table group at our house. I'd like to encourage, I don't blame you guys. Yesterday was miserably hot. It was real hot yesterday. But it was still, for everybody that did come out, thank you for coming and supporting the Sober Soldierz table group. That was really amazing. We had some burgers and hot dogs and whatever. But where there's never not, share your wisdom with us, With that being said, there's one more super cool thing happening, and it's something that just kind of came out of my mouth a long time ago when we were talking to Andrew. I said, well, some things were happening, and I was like, well, it's like someone making fun of our baby, and I looked at it like Sober Soldiers. It's kind of like our baby, it really is. And, through time, a baby grows up, and it starts to talk and walk and be a pain in the butt. And so our baby's grown up. And so without allowing that baby to leave home and go affect other parts of Iowa or wherever it goes from there, we have no idea. We don't have a solid direction yet. But Ron and Kat from Oski Open Bible have asked us if they could host a Sober Soldiers in-person meeting there, which will also be live on the page as well, so you can see that. So that's the big announcement we have going on. I think it's going to be super cool. Again, thank you guys for allowing us to come in and take over church, staying a little late today. Thank you for all the kind words. Thank you for everybody just forcing us and showing us and allowing us to be broken. And not forcing us to be broken. Nobody forced us to be broken. That was my fault. I did that on my... But I came into this church and I needed you. You want to do it that way? We can do it that way. That'd be easier. No. Okay. Rewind. God, I came into this church and I needed you, and I left full. I don't really know what else to say after that. I really, really don't. I'm not trying to make people laugh right now. Really just at that point, I don't know how to express my love and gratitude for everything that you've put since January 11th, 2020, the day I chose to find you. I just got nothing but praise, and I say thank you every morning. And today has just been hopefully an inside look at the Sober Soldiers, and hopefully you have allowed us to touch somebody's heart in this building today and stuff. So anyways, amen. I did my best.